After losing to the Dolphins, Micah Parsons watched the 49ers game and took a shot at Brock Purdy, writing down 21, there's no shots or development throws. Should tell you all you need to know, exclamation point. Now that tweet warranted caustic responses. Then Micah responded, prime example of let's attack the person rather than addressing the topic, another exclamation point. Yeah, because it's so weird a football player's talking about football on a website where you can write your own thoughts and opinions, another exclamation point. So there you go, bro. Your reaction.
Look, I know people think I get pleasure and joy out of destroying, I guess, the Cowboys.
Sure.
All right. The tomato cans, the F grades and all that.
Yeah.
I like Micah. He was my pick for Defensive Player of the Year in the preseason. We'll see if that comes to pass. But this is why two things come to mind. Number one, this is one example. It's actually reason number 4,080. How about that?
Okay.
Of why the Dallas Cowboys will not reach the Super Bowl and why they haven't gotten even to the Final Four, the NFC title game, in the last 28 years. It is because they have a culture that lacks maturity and discipline. And it starts with the owner. It starts at the top with Jerry Jones and trickles down throughout the organization. And Micah's just the player personification of it. All right, that's all. He's just in the mix of it. All right. But also, this is why I didn't want Micah doing the podcast. Remember I said in the beginning of the year, he shouldn't have a podcast.
Yeah.
Because he's too young. All the other players that had, or not all, but most of them, the Kelsey brothers, Draymond Green, they're veterans who played a long time. They've won championships. Micah's 24. He's young. He's new to the league and has no jewelry to speak of.
Should he not have a Twitter account either? Because this wasn't on the podcast.
Twitter, whatever. It's the same thing. He's not mature enough. Look, he's not mature enough to walk the fine line of being having a podcast or tweeting about football and about your team without putting out damaging or inflammatory stuff. Where it's a hard line to walk because he's acting like he's one of us or like he's Ryan Clark or some ex-player who's not going to have to step on the field. All right. And then finally, how are you criticizing Brock Purdy, Micah? Brock Purdy put 42 points,
42.
4 touchdowns, 252 yards, and had a passer rating of 144.
Yeah.
All right, and then since you want to be an analyst, make it some good analysis. All right, you say he can't throw down the field.
That's not what he said. That's not what he said.
They're not throwing down. I'm taking it that way.
Well, but
they're not throwing down the field. All right, why aren't they throwing down the field? The implications that Brock Purdy can't do it. And yet, we got this graphic showing that on passes of 20 or more air yards, you'll get your turn, Nick. Passes of 20 or more air yards, Brock Purdy has the greatest passer rating of any quarterback since 2006. All right, so it's not like he can't throw down the field. All right, I don't know why they weren't, but the implication that he's garbage, he's a game manager, but a game manager put 4 TDs and 250 yards.
All right.
Solid.
Come on.
Solid.
It's just immature.
Is it my turn now?
Yeah, it's your turn. Go ahead. I'm going to be chiming in with finishing your sentences too.
Fine. You know how I know, Wilds, when I had a great take on this show?
Why?
When the responses on social media are about my hair or my suit. I'm like, oh, the ad hominem attacks have come because people don't want to address the substance of what I said. And Micah's substance, the specific thing he said, is undeniably correct. He did not talk about the totality of the season. He did not talk about the Niners against the Cowboys. He said, down 21, running the ball and dump off passes instead of deep shots. Interesting. And that is correct. Down 21, late in the third, at the ball near midfield. Here's what Kyle Shanahan called. Run, 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 and then 3 straight dump-offs. I don't know if it was called dump-offs or it's just what Purdy ended up doing, including on a 4th and 11.
Yeah.
and we can show you Purdy's passing chart from the game, which shows you you know what I would have liked to see, and I think Mike is talking about, deep downfield incompletions even. Taking shots and chances because you're down 21 points.
Why doesn't Micah worry? I mean, I get it, but we're kind of missing the forest for the
No, I disagree with you. How many people watched that football game? 30 million? Was it a standalone game? Would anyone have any issue if Micah had tweeted, man, Lamar Jackson is balling? Nobody has a problem with Micah watching the game.
Yeah,
nobody has, right.
That's not the problem. The problem is he's saying, so I want to know what you think he's saying. Because I think he's taking a shot at Brock Purdy.
Yes, of course he is.
Of course
he is. That's what I was saying.
No. But
he's saying he can't throw it down the field.
No, what he was saying is that the coach did not trust him in that spot to try to bring them back with his arm, which A, I believe is true, B, I believe is smart analysis, and C, and here's the other part of it that I think that where I vehemently disagree with Brew on as far as, he's providing the Niners bulletin board material. The best thing that could possibly happen to the Dallas Cowboys is if they have to play the Niners in the playoffs, Brock Purdy enters that game with a chip on his shoulder. The best chance the Cowboys have of beating them is if Purdy's like, I remember what he said about me. I'm going to prove him wrong. Now, I don't think this is going to...
touchdowns on Micah Parsons' defense.
So hold on. So I understand that happened.
Yeah.
Do you think the Cowboys would have a chance of beating the Niners unless Brock Purdy melts down? Do you think so I actually don't think these tweets will impact an upcoming game. I don't think you necessarily do.
I agree because the Niners aren't even thinking about the Cowboys. Deebo was like,
clearly is.
He's clearly not. Deebo was like, we beat them like 42 to what? They're not even on his radar. All right, he's not thinking about them. But Micah has got the Niners on his brain, and I guess he should.
It's odd that Micah Parsons is trying to win in the court of public opinion rather than on the field. After they lost that game, 42-10, Micah Parsons had this quote, and I'm quoting from Michael Gelkin, NFL. I don't think the 49ers are at a higher level than us. I think we're the same caliber playoff team. Remember we ran this quote?
Yeah.
It was just an odd quote. So I just don't know what he's doing.
You put that out there when do you really believe that? Are you trying to convince yourself, trying to convince others?
It's a bizarre way to get rolled by a team and then say, we're actually just as good at them, and then watching him struggle against another team, being like,
and mocking.
That's us. Would anyone do it back to Micah? Brock Purdy gets on there. Man, you can't get to Jared Goff.
Wait a second.
Bizarre.
It is. Hold on. And this is where I have to push back. We see this exact thing in the NFL all the time. We saw the Niners get rolled by the Eagles in the NFC Championship game, talk trash all offseason.
That was an entirely different. Yeah. But Nick, they didn't have their quarterback or a quarterback.
I undernd that.
I mean, that's a big difference.
I agree with all of that. But the Niners then rolled them. Yeah. What I am saying is the idea that, and this is where I feel like the Cowboys in particular are held to a different standard. The idea that we are pretending like professional athletes, if they get beaten by an opponent, therefore just lay down their sword and will never criticize or go at or give commentary on said opponent until they beat them is not at all how.
What when the Eagles were when the 49ers were criticizing the Eagles, the criticism was uniform. If we didn't have to have Christian McCaffrey as our possible quarterback, and if the NFL didn't have to change the rules so that we're allowed to have an emergency quarterback, we would have won.
They had a reason for it. Yeah. It'd be like if Dak had gotten hurt in this game, and then Michael was like, wait till we get our quarterback.
That's fine.
We'll see you with our quarterback.
That would have been in the show.
No, that would have, of course, been apples to apples. The point I am making is you don't see that what Micah Parsons is right there trying to litigate is the Dak versus Purdy MVP debate. You don't see that's what it was.
I mean, Dak's got no MVP. His MVP argument isn't better than Purdy's.
Okay, but I bet Micah Parsons thinks it is. And Micah Parsons thinks it is because he thinks Dak is a quarterback that is the bus driver of a team. And the Dak, whether we think the debate is dead, you agree Dak versus Purdy was a significant MVP debate for a good month or more of the season. We had it on the show.
And
it was
Purdy
everywhere.
was ahead of it.
Dak was the favorite.
Dak hasn't played well against very good teams. Purdy has for the most part.
I understand that's your stance, but you agree with me that that debate existed. Micah was in a standalone national TV game was, in my opinion, taking a shot at the Niners guy in defense of his guy. You guys can say you think it's silly or foolish. I'm saying I think it is commonplace. I also think the commentary is correct. And Micah, for all the podcast stuff that he gets criticized for, does anyone think that's affecting his play? You said he might win Defensive Player of the Year right now.
He's playing fine, but that's not the goal. The goal is for them to win the championship.
And I think Micah Parsons has only done things that help that this year. I don't think we can say that Micah Parsons right now is working against the Dallas Cowboys in any way, shape, or form. And I don't think any of us think that this tweet negatively hurts their ability to beat the Niners.
It just doesn't. No, of course not. They got to settle it on the field. But it doesn't look good. It'd be like Errol Spence coming out talking about Terrence Crawford in his next fight. Oh, he ain't that good. He knocked you out. And guess what? The Niners knocked out
but
the
isn't
Dallas
that exactly
Cowboys.
what Errol Spence will do?
What would 3 straight losses say about the Cowboys, bro?
Well, first, let me give Dak a little love. He is excellent in the press conferences at the subtle self-compliment. Sure. He slid in there. I know the numbers say I'm playing good, but I like that. All right, so Dak, props to you. All right, now let me get to the question. If they lose, Nick, you will probably agree with me while sticking with your pick. This would tell me the Cowboys, and I'm leaning toward picking them, but this would tell me the Cowboys are pretenders, not contenders. All right, I don't think they're going to win the NFC, but I do think they're in that contender box. If they lose this game, I no longer think they're in that box. They aren't, because number one, the problem is they've struggled against good teams. They're 3-4 against good teams. This would be 3-5. And if you lose to bad teams, if you're a very good team, have a good record, we can write that off. Like the Arizona loss, nobody's looking at that as emblematic of what the Cowboys are, right? We write that off as a fluke, as a bad day at the office, as an F game, all right? But when you lose to the good teams regularly, it shows you can't beat them consistently. And this would be 3 straight losses to teams like that. All right, and then the second thing is it would be at home. All right, you lose on the road, yeah, we know it's a problem. I think it's a big problem, but we'll deal with that down the line. You lose this game on the road or at home where you've won 14 straight, now it's like we can't beat good teams on the road or at home in our building. So I think this would speak volumes about the Cowboys and essentially in their chances of getting to the Super Bowl.
Wilds, what do they call me?
Mr. Consistency.
Yeah, so I maybe I'll surprise Brew a bit here. A loss for the Cowboys here would say, in all likelihood, they're cooked. Because you lose 3 straight this late in the year, you're cooked.
Wow.
Which is why I think the Eagles are cooked. And it is very, very difficult for me to wrap my mind around the logical argument of if the Cowboys lose this week, they're done as they're pretenders, but the Eagles are fine. Now, where the consistency rolls in is I have said the Eagles are done. So I am not going to be able to then do the opposite. Say the Eagles are done, but Dallas is going to be fine. Because while Dallas is the beat good teams, they struggle with it, the one thing they do have going for them is the one good team that they not only beat, they annihilated was, of course, those Eagles. And I guess we could say they also annihilated the Rams. It was before they were playing well, but we now consider them a good team.
How many wins do the Cowboys have against good teams?
Well, they beat the Eagles, they beat the Rams, they beat Seattle.
Yeah. 3 teams with winning records. Philly has 6.
Okay,
that's the difference. Since you were suddenly saying I'm not consistent, I'm consistent. I'm saying one team has proven they can beat winning teams, another has proven they can't.
And we can disagree on what Philadelphia has or hasn't proven. Cowboys, though, also have to win this game for real tangible reasons because their path if they lose this game, is locked in that they are the 5 seed. They win this game, I believe that Philly is probably about a coin flip to lose one of their next 2. Not a coin flip in either game specifically, but a coin flip to lose one of their next 2. In which case, they all of a sudden beat Detroit. You eliminate, any potential tiebreaker issues with the Lions because you beat them head-to-head. If Philly loses, you're the 2 seed. You're the 2 seed and have probably Seattle coming to your house. Then you host the Lions in round 2, most likely, and your path is so much cleaner. And so, yeah, I think that if Dallas loses this game, I will probably look at the team in best position in the NFC other than the Niners as the Rams. Maybe the Lions. And so, because the Cowboys, to me, you cannot be full-fledged falling apart at the end of a season. You can't. By the way, it's a concern. We'll talk about it later. It's why Kansas City's game this weekend is so critical because they had such a disastrous performance this past week. And they've been
second half of the season.
Yeah, they've been struggling the second half of the year.
And everything the Ravens were good at, points, yards, TD to interception ratio, and passer rating, the Commanders are literally dead last. So does Purdy need to have a huge game?
He needs to have a clean game. And listen, here's what I expect. I expect Purdy to put up a 125-plus passer rating, him to have at least 2, maybe 3 touchdowns, no picks, and you guys to them on Monday come to me and be like, what more do you want to see from him, knowing very well what more I would want to see from him.
Brock
Purdy.
No, I don't know the answer, not to be fresh, but
no one that has watched football this year denies or doubts that Brock Purdy, if things are rolling, can look great. And I expect things like you do.
But why do they get rolling?
A lot
does he
of
have
reasons.
anything to do with it?
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's fair.
Absolutely, he has something to do with it. No. I think more often than not, he is not the single biggest reason that things get rolling. But yes, of course, he has something to do with it. There is no question that when, especially against the Commanders' defense against the Shanahan offense, Purdy, McCaffrey, all of it, it is, to me, not going to be likely a fair fight. So, but I do think, Brew, that if he starts the game off with a pick, there will be massive alarm bells going off for all involved, internally or externally.
Yeah, I'm with you. It needs to be clean. Look, a big game. He's had tons of big games.
Exactly
against good teams.
Yes.
Tampa Bay, the perfect passer rating, Philly, Dallas.
Are you saying your answer is no here?
No, he doesn't have to have a huge game. And this is my reasoning, because I don't think the doubters are not going to be swayed by him having a big game.
He's right about that.
He came back from his 3-game struggle or, slump with a 6-game run that was the best we've seen in history, and that didn't silence the doubters. And so I'm with Nick, and I don't even think it has to be a totally clean game. I'd like it to. But if he has, say, 1 pick, three touchdowns,
can't come early.
One pick, 3 touchdowns is still a good
If
game.
it comes early and he overcomes it and plays well,
Sure,
I don't think that'll be bad. If he has 3 touchdowns and a fumble or whatever, he doesn't fumble a lot, but if he has a fumble, I don't think that'll be an issue. But no, I don't. I think he needs a clean game.
Okay.
And let me throw this out, because I think Nick will agree with me. Nick, even if he leads a comeback, a game-winning drive, I think at this point that still wouldn't satisfy.
A game-winning drive against the Commanders is not good.
Well, I'm saying, like,
out for me.
Just because you wanted to see it. Nobody's worried about the team, I don't think. At least in the NFC. But I think you and others who doubt his ability to come back would say, well, the first 4 times he didn't come back.
Maybe you'll think I'm crazy here. I think what would make the Niners feel, I think that beating the Commanders 40-0 would not be as good as if they were down 10 at halftime and Purdy let them back. Because you
don't think he could lead them back from a 10-0 halftime or a 20-10 halftime deficit?
No.
Oh, you don't?
No. I've never seen him do it.
Well, he's only played a few games. I mean,
but if you're Wilds, here's the thing. This is the crazy thing. You always say this, and then we can move on. I promise. That if it's like, if you were an NBA player, and you're Shaquille O'Neal, and it's like, I just don't believe he can hit threes, and it's like, well, he's never had to. Okay, fair enough. But if you've had 5, if you took 5 over the course of a season, you went 0 for 5, would it be fair for me to be like, if he ever has to do that in a big spot, I don't think he can do it. So I believe the Niners at some point are going to face adversity in the postseason. I don't think he can overcome it. I don't think he can lead from behind. I don't think he nor the Shanahan offense, it can happen without a great player at quarterback. We've never seen it. That's why I'd be more impressed by that than by them winning 40-0. We've seen that repeatedly.
I get it, but it's like Kevin can't defend himself in knife fights. It's like, yeah, I'm never in them.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.